It's a Tuesday morning, a little bit before 8:30, and I'm at the Corvallis Transit Center. Today is going to be another heat dome day. And you might notice if you look up at the sun, there's kind of a haze in the sky. One reason the heat dome hasn't been as severe as it could have been is that there's a smoke haze blocking out the sun's light. In either case, it's going to be an uncomfortable day in Corvallis, so I'm going to the coast. I'm in Newport, Oregon. It's about 35 to 40 Fahrenheit degrees cooler here than it is on the coast. It's going to be in the high 60s as opposed to the low 100s or high 90s in Corvallis. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. But I do notice the sky does have a haze to it, so that smoke is still blowing here. A little bit less though. Anyway, I have a number of things I'm going to do in Newport today. I'm at the Nye Beach beach access point. We can see the Pacific Ocean there, or we could. There seems to be a sea fog today, maybe mixed with some of that smoke. So not good visibility today. That's pretty common on the Oregon coast. I'm actually stopping here for a second because I'm going to go back and I'm going to take another bus. But I just wanted to see the ocean before I proceed back this way. So I'm back at the bus station at City Hall. I'm waiting for the City Loop bus, the Newport City Loop bus, to go to the north and see some of the beaches a little bit outside of town or at the north end of town. And I am waiting a while, but right now it's already climbing up into the 80s or 90s in Corvallis, so anything that I do here is more fun than I'd be doing at home. So I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes and then see the beach. I just got off of that bus. This is Highway 101. I'm still in Newport city limits, but as you can see, looking kind of scrappy. And from Google Maps, there is beach access here, but I am not exactly sure, and I'm also not exactly sure where the best place to cross is. I'm going to try to cross right here. Well, according to Google Maps, this is a public road with beach access. I am hoping that that is accurate information. In Oregon, all beaches are public, but not all access to the beaches is. Oh no. Haha, psych. So we do have some public beach access here, and looks like it's kind of quiet. That's one of the reasons why I came this far north, is even though, you know, I had to walk along the highway, this is not the tourist beaches, so it's going to be a quiet time here, I'm assuming. If I can, yeah, let's walk around here. So it's only a couple hundred or 1,000 feet in front of me, but right now I can't see the Cape. It is that foggy of a day. And that might melt off as the day goes on, but right now I'm not complaining. The Oregon coast is often misty. That's part of the appeal. And right now I'm not really thinking about where I'm going, especially I have 5 more hours before I have to get a bus back to Corvallis. So, you know, I'm just wandering up and down the beach. There seems to be quite a bit of kelp and related things washed up on the beach, and that could be an effect of the currents of the head, which is invisible, but it's going to push a lot of the ocean to form eddies here. Also, just in general, usually the times I've been to this Newport area, there is a lot of kelp on the beach. Here more than usual though. This also isn't unusual. There is some type of moon jelly, and quite a few of them I've seen washed up on the beach. Here you can actually see, look at all those little spots of washed up moon jellies. We might also be having a high tide today. I'm not sure of the details on that. Like, look at that. That looks like that had to have come loose in a storm and washed up in a storm along with everything else along the beach. This is where the beach ends and becomes rocky, leading up to the Yaquina Lighthouse area. And a minute ago I did something dumb. I walked over there and the waves did come in and kind of got my shoes wet. Not terribly serious, but something I should have been more aware of. Anyway, the beach will still be here tomorrow. No reason to chance it, even though that is a beautiful, interesting area. So I'm just going to walk back along the beach and see what else I can see. Isn't this where I came in? So I walked south back towards the head, back towards Newport, and then turn around and go north. This is where I came in, and I'm just gonna continue to cross this water here and walk along the beach. My major limiting factor is, even though I brought fluids, I can't walk forever because I'll get thirsty, but I can walk for another mile or two and then decide what to do next. I only walked a couple hundred more feet. It looks like the beach does end here, and I think we have a high tide today because the water is coming up so close to these cliffs. But be that as it may, even though on another day maybe I could continue walking down and going towards Moolac Beach and the other beaches that really run for a while, today, no siree. So I'm just going to turn around and walk this way, head back into town, I guess, and keep an eye on that ocean. So this is the thing I should be careful of. I mean, right here, we quickly get into where we have some dry sand. Still, you might have noticed, or you might have not noticed, not a lot of people on the beach. Maybe you saw a couple people walking around somewhere out in the fog. But on the whole, this area is not very busy. And part of that in general, the Oregon beaches are not super crowded and social. They're kind of solitude places, natural places. And then part of that is because we are on the north side of town. But even on a hot summer day in one of the main tourist cities on the Oregon coast, this is a lot of times what you're going to see. A lot of fog and solitude. So we're about to leave the beach, or at least this section of beach, and this trail here, I think this is a trail, leads to beach access up there, or anti-beach access. At least that's what I think. And I've talked before about the dilemma of, you know, is something a trail, or am I just getting myself lost and causing erosion in the bargain? This, I think, is pretty clear cut, looks like a trail, but I could be wrong. Well, things like this let me know that I have found a real trail. This didn't happen by accident, but I don't know how long this trail goes and where it ends up, but it is a trail. Oh, this looks like a good place to come out. You can see the ocean down there. You can also see that haze is kind of lifting, having a clearer day. So I'm happy. I hope you are too. So here I'm just enjoying a view of the Pacific, but when we turn around we see this is return to reality. I've climbed that trail and I'm in this little neighborhood in Newport, probably mostly full of vacation homes, a bit outside of town, and from here I'm going to walk back to the highway and then back into the main part of town. So when I was at that last viewpoint, that wasn't even the main viewpoint. This apparently is. It's just a block away. And as you can see, we have a really nice view of the Yaquina Lighthouse. So I found this little neighborhood park. When I was looking on the map, I saw there was a park here, but I thought it was like those two viewpoints. There was just a bench and an empty field. Instead, we have, you know, these considerable picnic tables. We have this gazebo. We have this play structure or something. Then we have a bathroom. And it makes sense. Newport gets a lot of money from tourists, so spending some money to keep a park looking spiffy makes sense. In this particular neighborhood, when I talk about tourists, it's probably people who are renting vacation homes by the week or by the month, not, you know, casual day trippers. But still, they want to keep facilities going for tourists and for locals. One thing we don't have here is drinking water. And even though it's a lot cooler here than it is in the Willamette Valley, it's still pretty hot, and I do want to acquire some more fluids. So let's see where we can go. I'm still in the same neighborhood, north side of Newport. Nice little residential neighborhood. And one thing I want to talk about, and some of this is perceptions and stereotypes, don't know how accurate it is, but something to think about. Like when I was a kid and into the 1990s, even maybe into the 2000s, the Oregon coast is where you went when you wanted to work like 20 hours a week at a service industry job and spend the rest of your time enjoying nature and being groovy. You know, and you could get housing here for really cheap along the Oregon coast. And now this is where you come when you've made your first $1 million in Silicon Valley, and the one-room shacks here are probably like $500,000 or something. Don't know the details, but it has changed just like the rest of the Pacific Northwest. So coast is different than when I grew up, though it still kind of has the same vibe. This is interesting and doesn't really need a comment from me. It speaks for itself. But we have this house with Super Mario Brothers decorations. Coast is full of a lot of charming little things like that. I think it's cute. And also, importantly, I have some ice cream now. I'm going to eat that and cool off and then go back to the beach. So the tide is high today, and I know because if you look out past where the paddleboarder is, that area of the beach, which is now well underwater, I've tide pooled there before. When the tide was coming in, the tide was high then. So today I think we have a really high tide because there's only a short band before we get to the cliffs. So now I'm on the main beach, and as you can see, it's a bit more crowded here. A lot of people here on a day like today. And I've been to this beach several times before. Twice in 2021, 4 times in 2022, and this is my second time this year, more or less. So, you know, I'm just gonna enjoy Newport, but this is a little bit more standard. This is stuff I've already seen and that we've already seen. So like I said several, even many times before, this is a busy day on a busy beach in Oregon. Not the busiest part of the beach, not the busiest day because it's a Tuesday, but Newport is one of the major tourist towns on the Oregon coast. It's a very hot day in the valley. This is one of the more busy days for the beach, and still, you know, you can see a couple people scattered, but it still gives you a lot of time to enjoy nature. So that looks like a vertebrae bone, presumably from a bird, but maybe from a fish. And that's a little unusual, but if you look on the beach today, you have parts of crabs, you have mollusk shells, so you have crustacean mollusks, vertebrate, other things that I don't quite know what they are. We saw jellyfish earlier. So there seems to be a lot of debris up on the beach today, and I'm assuming that might have something to do with having a high tide, that a lot of stuff is coming further in. Maybe we also have a lot of wind and pushing stuff in, but yeah, the beach has more debris than I usually see on the Oregon coast, and I usually see a lot, but today it does seem especially heavy. There's some more of the ocean. It's beautiful. The beach is beautiful. I'm enjoying myself. Not a lot else to say. One thing to mention about today's weather, because the sun is actually very bright, but there's this haze, and it's bright, but it's bright from every direction. So it hurts my eyes, but then I put on my sunglasses, and together with the fog and the mist, I can't see anything. Also, for that matter, because of the way it tints things, I can't see my viewfinder. So some of the shots I got today might not have been pointing at what I thought they were. But that is the Oregon coast. This is an example of how the beach can shift. And I've been here before, and I think I've even been to this section before, but today it's more like dunes. These are some pretty up and down dunes. So perhaps like the wind has just been blowing in a different way lately, because I don't quite remember this. Walking in sand like this, oh, it's taken a bit out of me. So here we have this stream, and I believe this stream is the same one that is behind the reservoir that I visited 10 months ago. And it's a contrast because here, you know, the sand is very bleak. There's a couple of tufts of grass trying to live here, but it's pretty abiotic. And then here you have this stream, and you can see it's really rich in tannins. It's dark and it's, you know, almost moldy. So quite a contrast there. So right up there is the reason I came this way and walked over the dunes. That's the Agate Beach parking lot, and there is a restroom there, and I hope drinking fountains. All is need more water. And when I started the walk there, I kind of looked at my map and I was like, oh, okay, it's just that way. And I kind of didn't have to quite walk over all the dunes I did, but I did, and so now I'm here. I'm going to get some water, and then I'm going to head back to the main beach. So the parking lot of the Agate Beach area did not actually have a drinking fountain. Had restrooms, no water. I still have fluids, but that is something to remember, because even on a cool day at the beach and the walking is pretty easy, yeah, just always be aware of the threat of dehydration. Anyway, now I'm walking on smooth sand and a pretty straight shot back to town. So we're getting towards the center of town. Hard to judge distances on the beach because something might be a mile away, but that's going to be 45 minutes of dawdling and staring at the waves. Here we are at this line of rocks. Been here before. Moves up and down, gets covered and uncovered by sand throughout the year. This is also where we can exit back up to the bank. So this is where I started out this morning when I said I wasn't going to be here. And there was too much fog to see the ocean. As you can see, as is usually the case in the afternoon, the fog has melted off. We can see all the way to the lighthouse. At least I can. Hopefully that shows up in the video. And so when I was on the beach this morning, I was on the other side of that hill there, and I walked all the way back here. Don't know how many miles that is, but it did take me 5 hours. You know, I walked back and forth and thought a lot. So no real thoughts. I mean, the beach is the beach. It's better than being stuck in a smoke-filled city that's 100 Fahrenheit. So I had a good day. And a couple things, you know, I do want to mention. Newport really is a mix. It is a land of contrasts. You know, there are some people who come here for the nature. There's some people who come here for more traditional beach fun, cotton candy and kites. And tourism here, you know, there's some people just having a, you know, fun day on the beach, and then there's some people paying a lot of money to spend time here. And, you know, it's a mix of different scenes and stuff, and there's something for everybody. And, oops. And before I return to the bus stop, I still have 90 minutes. This is the library. I'm going to see if it's open because I've been by this library, but I've never actually been in the library. So if you can see, this building is pretty new. I talked to the librarian. She said probably sometime in the 80s and 90s, and that there were older libraries. And I asked because when I was in Hood River about 10 days ago, they had a Carnegie library. This building is newer, but still very nice. A lot of times in little coastal towns, you'll find big libraries in their neighborhood meeting places as well. So I enjoyed going in there, but now on in this direction. So I think I got interrupted a while back there. Walked around downtown, went to the other lighthouse park. Now I'm just walking back to my bus. So one thing is, you know, I've made a number of trips to Newport, but what I see is, as a person who's here on a day trip and wanting to see just the natural side really easily, there are people who live here, obviously, and then there's people who come here for specific vacation purposes, especially a lot of outdoor activities like surfing, that type of thing. And they're going to tell you a very different story. So hopefully I show a nice slice of what life is like on the Oregon coast. But again, you know, that is my perspective. Somebody with more time, money, and resources might have a really different look at what life is like in Newport. And one other note, as I head over to the bus stop over there by City Hall, I was doing some math. There's 60,000 people live in Corvallis, 60,000 people who live in Albany. If 1 out of 1,000 people wanted to get to Newport and either didn't have a car, didn't want to use a car because it can be kind of hectic driving here and finding parking, you have 120 people who could use this bus. You could fill up a lot of buses if you had that much people coming here. And the transportation is available, and the county governments have, I think, done a good job making it available. And I think a lot of people just doesn't occur to them to think about using the bus, because I think there's a lot of people, or at least some people, who don't have access to other transportation and can come here on a bus and enjoy a day in Newport. So I'm back in Corvallis. It's 7 p.m. and the temperature is cooled down to, I guess, the mid 90s, low 90s. And as you can see, the air is red. So I did escape the bad climate for a day, or for part of a day. Now it's to return to reality and return to the rest of the summer, which hopefully will not be all this.